In fact, it's foods such as cheese, milk, meat, fish, and eggs that are all widely recognized as important sources for the complete proteins and the essential nutrients crucial to children's health. And that's exactly right. You cannot get complete proteins unless you eat animal-based foods. Can you get all of the proteins from just plant-based foods? Yes, but it's extremely difficult. I remember talking to my friend and the author of a book called Ketotarian, Dr. Will Cole, and he advocates for a mostly plant-based diet. And I remember asking him one time for keto. How do you get all the protein if you're only doing it from plant-based? Now, he, for the record, advocates fish and eggs at the very minimum with the plant-based. He said, it's very hard, Jimmy, and you would have to eat from a wide variety of foods daily, plant-based foods, in order to get all of the essential amino acids. And then at that point, it's still not even enough because it's the absorption of those amino acids as well, whereas animal-based amino acids, proteins, are very well absorbed. And you get all of them, and you don't have to worry about it. Eat some eggs, eat some fish, eat some red meat. All of those things have ample amounts of the amino acids. So let's get back to the article. Again, if you joined in late, this is an article written by Nina Teicholz, the author of The Big Fat Surprise. It's in the New York Daily News. Vegan Fridays are nutritionally risky. The American Academy of Dietetics states that, quote, well-planned vegetarian and vegan eating patterns can be healthful and appropriate for all stages of the life cycle. But well-planned usually means taking supplements or consuming foods that are fortified in vitamins. I used to think that was cool on boxes of cereal. You would see fortified with 18 essential nutrients and vitamins and minerals, and you would think that was a cool thing, never realizing, oh my gosh, this food is so devoid of nutrients, they have to spray on nutrition onto the outside of it. And let's not pretend like that sprayed on minerals and vitamins that they put on those things that they call cornflakes and frosted flakes and mini wheat thins and all the things that we used to eat for breakfast. Don't think that that is just as good as what it would be in real food form. It's not. It's far inferior. By contrast, the Swiss nutrition societies do not recommend vegan diets for children. Adding supplements to school meals is one possibility, though, yet nutrients are always far better absorbed when they are eaten in their naturally occurring form. And shouldn't we be teaching our children to eat real whole foods? Yeah, we should. I think we have become so detached from real whole foods, especially here in America, that the concept of eating whole foods is a completely foreign one, especially to kids. I know I've seen some reports where they go to kids and they say, hey, name some real food, and they'll say pizza, or they'll say French fries, or hamburgers, and they'll just go down this list of the things that they know are food, and they're not food. Candy bar, that's real food. Yeah, it's real. It's real. I can put it in my mouth. It's real. And they don't have the concept of real meaning it's from nature. This is how it came in its natural form. They don't understand the idea of processed foods and how foods go through a very heavy manufacturing process to make them edible as they are today. It's the one thing that I have been trying in my work for almost 18 years now, is to get people back to, let's go back to eating foods in their whole form. I have backyard chickens who poop me out eggs every single day. And I have an egg I can hold in my hand that I know is a real whole food. I know where it comes from 50 feet out my back door, and I'm able to pop it into a pan, cook it in some grass-fed butter, and that is going to be a food that's going to nourish me. Now, how can we communicate that to kids that food doesn't come from a grocery store? That's another popular answer that happens. Oh, well, where does food come from? Oh, it comes from a grocery store. No, it comes from a farmer. It comes from people that raised the animals, people that grew the vegetation, whatever. And we need to stop having foods that are in a wrapper, in a box. And the sooner we can do that, then the sooner we can reconnect. And guys, those of you that have that are parents and have kids, go get you some animals. If you're able to, get you something that would connect your kids to the food. Because we wouldn't have this problem of needing to force a vegan Friday on kids if kids knew the value of the nutrition they were putting in their mouth. And I'm going to put it on the schools as well. Schools, how about serving good quality food? Maybe have a garden outside the school that's, closed in and everything so nobody from the outside can mess with it. But on the inside, the kids harvest their own vegetables and fruits and all the things. Maybe have a few chickens out there that they take care of, and then they get nutrition from that. Maybe show them the process of how you process foods for meat. How educational would that be? Jojo says, I met an adult who had no idea that beef was a cow. I was shocked, speechless. Yes. It's funny to me. It's kind of like the people too, and I've heard this, and I wasn't sure if it was a joke, but it actually was real. They said, where does chocolate milk come from? Oh, you feed cows chocolate and their milk comes out chocolate milk. That they actually believed that was true. Anyway, back to Nina Teicholz's article. One vegan lunch a week may seem like it's trivial, particularly if the point is to balance out the processed foods that are consumed all the rest of the week. However, New York City school children already have what's called Meatless Monday. So on Mondays, they already aren't allowed to have meat. And now Fridays, they're being forced to have a vegan meal. So that's 2 of the 5 meals that week that they're not allowed to have any animal foods at all. While wealthier families can afford to supplement with some healthy proteins in their diet, many of the children who go to public schools in New York City rely heavily on these school lunch meals for their nutrition. Furthermore, with the mayor amplifying the vegan for all message, he very well may inspire rich and poor families alike to go vegan, when it might not be ideal for children. Look, I don't think children need to be on a diet per se. Obviously, kids are still in the developmental stages and they need to be getting the basic nutrients to help them grow. And that includes fats and proteins. That includes a wide variety of vitamins and minerals because their bodies are developing. Their bodies need those things. And when you have deficiencies in amino acids and specific nutrients, the body can't develop the way it needs to. It'll blunt growth. It'll blunt and stunt their mental growth and development. And quite frankly, we're talking about public schools. We want them to learn when they're in the schools. And what better way to help them learn than to give them the basic nutrients in their diet that will help them do that. And while a vegan diet may be helpful for an adult for a short period of time, for kids, that's a no-no. Did you go keto and thought you had to give up wine? Well, let me introduce you to Dry Farm Wines. It is the world's first sugar-free alcohol that is lower than your typical wines, organic, made at local farms that do it the right way. Most of the wines that you buy are from 3 really big companies, loaded with additives and preservatives, so many dozens of those kinds of things. You don't want all that junk in your wine. So go to dryfarmwines.com/Jimmy and they will ship you these wines. And just because you listen to this podcast, Dry Farm Wines is going to give you a bottle in your first order for just 1 cent. Go to dryfarmwines.com/Jimmy and you will get your bottle of wine for just 1 singular penny. Go check them out. Dry Farm Wines, you guys. It's wine o'clock somewhere. Let's go get some wine. I think it's child abuse to make a kid eat a vegan diet when we know from all the research that their bodies have developing brains and developing muscles and all of these aspects that need animal foods. And I get it. If you're a vegan adult and you've got kids and you want them to be a vegan, you're trying to teach them your principles, but you're not doing them any favors. Let them choose. Let them be healthy, and then when they become adults, let them choose what they want to do. But to do that when they're kids and they're still developing, you're going to stunt them, not help them. As we learned from Meatless Mondays, meat is typically replaced by starchy carbohydrates, things like pizza bagels and bean salad. These foods, unfortunately, deliver less nutrition for a lot more calories. For instance, a bagel and a cup of cooked beans gives you 25 grams of incomplete proteins, which is insufficient for building muscle. Plus, on top of that, you get 100 grams of starches and sugars, all of which become simple sugars upon digestion. That's a total of 500 calories. Compare this instead to a hamburger patty, no sugar, no starch, 20 grams of a complete protein, and it's only 204 calories. Big difference. And if you gave them 2 of those patties, they'd have just over 400 calories. They'd have 40 grams of complete protein. They would not be hyper. I would think the teachers would be all about promoting fat and protein and animal foods to their kids, because they're the ones that have to put up with the behavioral issues. Think about all the behavior issues that happened in schools. How much of that is their diet? Have you ever stopped to think about that? That it's not bad kids, it's not unruly kids, it's not just because kids are going to be kids. Could it be that we're feeding them in such a way that they're acting out because the carb mind that they have from eating all those junk food carbs primarily, and then the lack of amino acids and fats is having an impact? I think that's more true than we want to believe. The high level of starches and sugar is especially concerning since those elevate your blood sugar, which is a principal driver of obesity and diabetes. A recent estimate found that 45% of children between the ages of 5 and 11 are overweight or obese. 35% under the age of 20 are diabetic. Did you hear that? Half the children, basically, between the ages of 5 and 11 are already overweight or obese. Guys, that didn't just happen. That didn't just happen. Some of it is they got some insulin resistance from their mom, who also is overweight or obese when they were in utero. So that's part of it. Some of that obviously is the foods that they're eating, and it's leading to greater obesity sooner in life. And then 35% under the age of 20 are diabetic. Guys, that's over a third. Over a third have type 2 diabetes before they're 20. Do you see the ramifications of the nutrition choices we have made? And now how it's living out in that next generation? And if they're dealing with that this early in their life, they're going to have complications a whole lot sooner than, say, my generation. I'm 50, I'm a Gen Xer. These Gen Zers, they're going to deal with the heavy ramifications of these choices that they're having now long before our generation did. Sometimes people in my generation didn't start dealing with the effects of some chronic health things like diabetes and the like until maybe their 40s. These kids, they might deal with it in their late 20s into their early 30s. Because if they're already dealing with it, over a third already have diabetes before the age of 20. That ain't good. That's not a good sign. And then listen to this, what Nina Teicholz has to say. Rates for black and brown children are even higher. This issue is one that the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, who also had type 2 diabetes, he says he's now reversed it through a plant-based diet, he should obviously and understandably care about. Another concern about the vegan diet, though, is that while some groups will claim that things like iron are equally available from plant and animal foods, the scientific literature tells a different story. Meat, for instance, contains a form of iron that humans can absorb 3 to 10 times more readily than the iron in spinach. I think they call that hemi-iron, Heme, and it is. It's a much more bioavailable form of iron.